This is PIX on Politics with Dan Mannarino.
And welcome to PIX on Politics, everybody. I am Dan Mannarino, and it's a solemn week in the world of politics. Conservative activist Charlie Kirk assassinated during an event on a college campus in Utah, one day prior to the country marking 24 years since the terror attacks on September 11th. Those events could shift the rhetoric we've seen on the campaign trail on the most contentious race for New York City that we have maybe seen in decades. New exclusive polling, here we go, from PIX 11 in partnership with Emerson College, showing Zoran Mamdani with a commanding lead here, but that does change if the ballot shrinks to a two-man race. That scenario giving Andrew Cuomo a fighting chance against the Democratic nominee. Now, whomever becomes the next mayor, that mayor will have to work with the city council, and we've seen the mayor's office and the council at odds in the past. Most recently, just this week, the council overriding Mayor Adams' veto to ensure that delivery companies pay drivers more. Critics said that move could result in higher supermarket costs, but the council remains firm in getting that pay for workers. To discuss this move and more, City Council Speaker Adrienne Adams going on the record. Adams, once again, back on PIX on Politics. Good to see you.
Great to see you, Dan.
And it's been a very, very busy week. Let me begin right now with the overriding of Mayor Adams' vetoes right here. These bills specifically surrounding delivery workers, right? Something that the mayor once was fighting for himself. Vetoed that bill. You guys come in now and override it. In essence, though, what's at stake here?
What's at stake is the pay for workers that deliver our food on a daily basis, no matter what the weather is. And speaking of the weather, we've had some very harsh weather over the past few weeks. These are folks that can barely afford to feed themselves, much less all of us. This bill came in on the heels of legislation that was already enacted for our food delivery workers. We wanted to make sure that our grocery delivery workers were indeed put up to par with those workers as well. They deserve to be paid a fair wage.
So the controversy now is really shifting to where does the money fall, right? If you're going to pay the delivery workers more, does that fall to the consumer? And Instacart, one of your council members was here yesterday saying they're a billion-dollar industry. They should really eat the cost. But are they? Are they going to?
I think it's very unfortunate that Instacart, as you said, is a multi-million-dollar company, if not billion-dollar company, would now dangle, over the heads of their workers that they don't want to pay them fair wages, number one. And number two, enacted a campaign against the city council saying that somehow we have the responsibility and that we would impact grocery prices. That's preposterous. If Instacart wants to send fees over, because they don't want to pay their workers, it will be them wanting to line their own pockets on the backs of their workers that do the work and actually do the profiting for these millionaires.
So they actually said, quote, the city council has now twice ignored the voice of New Yorkers, instead doubling down on harmful legislation that could significantly increase New Yorkers' grocery delivery bills.
The delivery bills would only increase if companies like Instacart choose to filter down delivery fees through its retaliation, basically, because again, they don't want to pay their workers, and you cannot turn that pointer onto the city council. We don't set grocery prices. But if these companies choose to retaliate against their workers because their workers do deserve fair wages, as the city council believes, then it will be those companies that will be responsible for those changes in fees.
So that was one of the overriding of the vetoes. The other one was regarding vendors and licenses, right? And you overrode what the mayor was doing there. This is not the first time we've seen the council. I think it was 8 times, right? 8 times the council has overridden a mayor's veto. What is the current relationship that the mayor has with the city council?
It's minimal, unfortunately, and I'll just say on the record that it was my hope that our legacy as city council speaker and the mayor of the, of the greatest city in the nation would have a much more collaborative relationship than what it has panned out to be.
Same last name, same high school.
Same last
said you
name,
were his sister.
same high school, all of that. And it is just unfortunate that the relationship has turned into or deteriorated into what it's been when my hopes, I can only speak for myself, I had such high hopes for this relationship, for the greater good of the city. That said also, I believe that this city council has continued to, under my leadership, and will continue to work and enact in the best interest of New Yorkers, and unfortunately, that has not been reciprocated by the other side of City Hall.
The other big issue that took place this week, the City Board of Elections recently approving this housing questions that are going on the ballot this November, right? And the several questions, if passed by voters, would really limit the City Council's ability to have oversight on affordable housing. You fought against that, saying you did not want it on the ballot. The Board of Elections thought otherwise. What are your thoughts now?
Well, again, my thoughts are the same, particularly 3 proposals, 2, 3, and 4, will absolutely take away the voice of the people of this city, the voices that are represented by City Council, duly elected representatives in the City Council. That will tremendously erode the voices of the people across the board.
If they vote for it.
If they vote for it. The language, Dan, in these proposals is so broad brush that it looks, and I use the word fluffy, it looks very fluffy and nice, and saying, oh, we're going to fast track housing, oh, we're going to eliminate this to make sure that City Council will no longer be able to have a voice in what is said basically in these particular. The fourth one says we're going to give you a board now of representation. The board will largely be represented by mayoral appointees in the background. So we are, in essence, taking away the voices of the voters when it comes to development. Let me say, the City Council and the representation of City Council members are the voices of negotiation that make sure that affordability is in place, make sure that zonings are in place, make sure that the voices of the people through the community boards, the civics, our neighbors and residences across this city, we listen to those voices. We project those voices into the negotiations of all development in the city. Under my leadership, we have approved over 130,000 units of housing for the people of the city. This is more pro-housing in a generation. So to even think that this City Council would be anti-housing is completely misinformed, completely wrong.
So I guess with it being on the ballot, isn't it up to the people anyway?
That's right. It is up to the people.
So are you going to campaign now and let people know? Because a lot of people with these Charter Review Commission items don't know what they're voting for.
Exactly. And that is exactly our fear with the language. The language looks really nice. Broad brush, more housing, fantastic. We need more housing in New York. Of course we do. But it is now going to be up to all of us, our neighbors, our community board members.
So what do you do? Are you going to educate?
City Council. We are going to educate fast and furiously on these ballot proposals, particularly 2, 3, and 4, that people understand that a vote to enact these proposals is a vote to silence their voices when it comes to housing and development in their neighborhoods. We are going to have to go hard on educating our community.
Okay. Speaking of elections and what's going to be on the ballot this November, obviously the race for mayor is a big one, dominating headlines. You were once a candidate yourself. Who has your vote now?
Well, I've said from day one, I'm a lifelong Democrat, and I would support the Democratic nominee. Zohran Mamdani is the Democratic nominee, and I support the Democratic nominee for mayor.
So when you look at the field right now, and there's this whole idea of consolidating the field to have someone challenge Zohran Mamdani and who's the best. When you look at the field right now and this idea of Mayor Adams potentially being offered a job, was he, wasn't he? Should he stay in the race? Should he drop out?
Well, I can't say, what Mayor Adams should or shouldn't do. What I will say is that he should be forward thinking and taking a look at his career overall, what that looks like in the scenario of the polls, and as well as what it looks like in the grand scheme of things and his path to victory. Is there a path to victory? I've run in several campaigns, obviously. I realize when there is no path to victory that it is time to then shut the door, move on to something else, and for the greater good of the people of New York.
Do you think you should do that? When you look at the poll numbers, our poll this week had him at 7%.
From what I understand, though, he is going to have his own pollsters do that for him at some point over the upcoming days, and I hope that he will, consider whatever those polls are. I don't know what that will look like for him.
Given the events of what played out this week, right? We saw assassination of Charlie Kirk. There's been a lot of talk about rhetoric overall within the mayor's race, within races around the country, and overall just the tone of what people are saying around this country, especially in this specific race. Should people tone down the rhetoric when it comes to this specific mayoral campaign?
Oh, absolutely. In all campaigns across this country, we're in such a different place right now where we don't work on a bipartisan level, and I'll just take it all the way out there.
Yeah.
We tend to compartmentalize our party and look at it straightforward in a party kind of a sense. I'm really happy, though, and I'll bring it back into my own city council. We've been able to work on a bipartisan level with our Democrats, with our Republicans. We've been able to do that very well. And I like to think, hopefully, it's a large influence of my leadership in the council.
Yeah. Even one of your former council members, a Republican, Joe Borelli, came out and said, look at what used to happen. We disagree.
Absolutely.
I want Zohran Mamdani to lose. I don't want anything harmful to happen to anyone. And in the chambers, we used to give each other cookies.
Absolutely right. And I saw the interview with Joe the other night, and how I miss Joe Borelli. We really did have a wonderful relationships regarding our politics, whether we disagree or not. We were always civil, and at the end of the day, we were always able to talk to each other and respect each other's views.
And there's a lot of talk about you and your future. And I asked you once before if you were going to run for mayor. You told me, to be continued, Dan. So now there's talks of you potentially wanting to be a lieutenant governor candidate. Now that field is kind of opened up with the current lieutenant governor running against Kathy Hochul, do you want to be lieutenant governor?
I have a lot of options. I've had no discussions.
This sounds like this is deja vu. And then
all
you ran
over
for mayor.
again. All over again.
Yeah.
But I still have the options. Dan, I don't come from a political world. I come from, almost 2 decades from the private sector in corporate America, which is still, looking good out there, as is, the public life, which I have loved and have loved what I do. I still love what I do because I was born to do this work.
But if she asked you, it's not a no.
If she asked me, all things to be considered.
To be considered, to be continued.
And to be continued, thankfully.
Speaker Adams, come on back when you have that announcement to make, okay?
Thank you.
Good to see you. And still to come, everybody, shifting tones right now. We are going to focus now on the aftermath of that shooting death of Charlie Kirk. Both political violence and gun violence now shaping the race for New York City Mayor Henry Rossoff with the very latest. Right after the break, PIX and Politics back in just 2 minutes.
You're watching PIX on Politics with Dan Mannarino.
And welcome back to PIX and Politics, everybody. So the shooting death of conservative activist Charlie Kirk, inflaming tensions, sparking debate about both rhetoric and guns once again. Our senior political reporter Henry Rossoff here with reaction now from local leaders, and there's a lot of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so the mayor on down to top leaders from this area in Washington, they have really done a concerted job to roundly condemn what happened, but no doubt there's this divisive undercurrent that's pulling New Yorkers and Americans apart right now.
It's the same hate that drove 2 planes into the World Trade Center that drove a bullet through the neck of Charlie Kirk. If we don't pause for a moment on 9/11 to state that we're better than that as Americans, we're better than that as human beings, then we're going to find ourselves in a dark place.
Mayor Eric Adams speaking from Ground Zero today following the killing of conservative commentator Charlie Kirk, while many Democratic leaders are framing his death as part of the ongoing scourge of gun violence.
We need to really look towards our leaders to lower the temperature and also lead by, I believe, in my view, ensuring that we have gun safety and laws against violence in the book.
Meanwhile, Republican leaders are saying Kirk was killed while upholding Democratic values and debating the issues.
This is someone who's a youth leader in the conservative movement, and we cannot live in a country, we cannot be a country if people are going to be afraid to utilize their First Amendment right.
But while many, though certainly not all politicians, parse their words carefully, we are seeing more elevated rhetoric on social media feeds and in group chats, with some mentioning Kirk's past statements they say are controversial and others claiming conservatives are being targeted. This paves the road to ruin, Rabbi Joseph Potasnik of the New York Board of Rabbis told us when we caught up with him, having just left Ground Zero himself.
I remember right after 9/11, people came forward to Red Cross willing to donate their blood. Red Cross didn't ask them, are you conservative? Are you liberal? Are you Republican? Are you Democrat? It didn't matter. We can have all the debates we want, but we have come to learn that hatred that starts in the head, goes to the heart, goes to the hands. So we better find something that unites us.
Places, although
There's There's also been a lot of conversation about the role of social media in all of this. In a news conference where it was announced that Kirk's alleged killer was arrested, the governor of Utah called social media, quote, cancer on society, especially in the context of spreading that gruesome video of Kirk's killing that unfortunately too many of us saw.
Yeah, and this goes back to the question now about rhetoric and toning down the rhetoric, and it starts at the top. So what is President Trump saying about that?
President Trump, to be frank, has been less careful than most. In fact, he said Friday morning on Fox News, he said he may get myself in trouble, but he sort of excused right-wing violence as people may be looking to stop crime and getting a little too far away, and said only left-wing violence was the problem. And he made sort of similar pointing accusations to the left in his initial comments after Kirk was killed. So starting at the top, President Trump objectively has been less careful than voices like Nicole Malliotakis, who you heard just there.
Yeah, and she was on the PIX Morning News as well, and she was very measured in her approach to working bipartisanship about some background checks for gun laws, you know. But there's really been the conversation now about threats and political violence and threats that are currently being made.
Yeah, and ongoing threats from Washington to here in New York. You had the DNC headquarters had a bombing threat. There were some additional threats made in Washington. Congresspeople, including Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, canceling weekend events. And here in New York City, City Council, a number of council members, I was just talking with Majority Whip Sylvina Brooks Powers, a number of them got threats in their emails. Now, it was easily debunked. It was not a very serious situation, but this is the climate we're operating in right now, Dan.
Yeah, it is not a good climate to be in.
Yeah.
So, Henry, thank you very much for laying all of that out.
Thank you.
And still to come, everybody, getting the vote out with Election Day less than 2 months away. It's important. Voter turnout in New York is essential. The AARP working to make sure voters 50 and older can get to the polls, make sure their voices are heard. We're going to talk with the New York director right after a quick break.
You're watching PIX on Politics with Dan Mannarino.
Welcome back, everybody. And with Election Day less than 2 months away, we are checking in with AARP New York about their role during this pivotal election season. So joining me now is Beth Finkel, the state director for AARP New York. And welcome back. Good to see you.
Good to see you too, Dan.
It's a lot to talk about. There's a lot to focus on when it comes to this election in particular. So what is the focus that you are paying attention to for this election season?
Well, we know that 50 plus, they really care about affordability, right? Everybody knows it's all about the pocketbook. But on top of that, it's also about crime, public safety. So those are the major things. And also, you know, as people age, how can they age in place in New York? How can they be happy and taken care of as they age in place in New York?
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly an important matter. And what I've noticed from all of the candidates in this election cycle is they are zeroed in on pretty much every age group in making sure people get out to the polls. And that includes 50 plus, making sure they actually get out and vote. Are you seeing high engagement in from the 50 plus population?
Well, we know that the 50 plus are always the absolutely most dependable voters in every election. Off year, on year, they're the ones that come out every time. And so that's why we know that politicians look very carefully about what's important to the 50 plus. We just did a survey, came out 2 weeks ago. We did the head-to-heads. If this one drops out, if this one drops out, where are we? Interesting to me that the other two polls that came out this week absolutely were in line with what we had found in our polling.
In terms of
Candidates
or issues?
In terms of the candidates themselves.
Your polls were also matching the other polls showing Mamdani far and away the front runner.
Yes, but we do have another poll coming up right before the elections. It'll be interesting to see the consistency at that point.
Yeah. I mean, I remember your poll, and that was really the first one that kind of showed post-primary where people stood. So besides affordability and crime, what are some of the key issues that your members are saying are important?
Well, what's the utility rates, and we really need to talk about Con Ed here because it's egregious. They have an increase of $2 billion for ratepayers here in New York, for consumers like you and I, which, by the way, would mean $60 a month on your utility bill and $60 a month increase on my utility bill. Nobody wants that. I mean, it's hard enough for folks to pay their utility bills right now.
So how are you, I guess, advocating to your members that you're not only paying attention, but helping them get out to vote?
Well, first of all, we're informing them. It's really important they can go on AARP.org/ new NYC votes. That's really the most important way to do it. We've got all the information up there. But we also make sure to keep capturing what's important to them and making sure that the politicians and the people running for office understand what is important to the 50 plus, because you know, AARP is the foremost advocate, both with, you know, and for the 50 plus.
You mentioned the utility rates, right? So what is the Independent Utility Consumer Advocate Office? Is that just a group that pays attention to what voters are saying and members are saying about what they're paying?
Well, the problem is it isn't in law right now. I'm so glad you brought it up, because we're really hoping that the Governor Hochul will sign it. It passed the Senate, it passed the Assembly, and now we need the governor to sign it. So that's what the advocate does. And then there's another piece of legislation on intervenor funding. So this is the part that just kills me. On our rate, what we're paying, Con Ed uses part of that money to hire their lawyers to plead their case to increase the rates on us. We're paying for them to get the research and everything else that they need to raise our rates. That's outrageous. And so consumers need protection in there too. They need people to represent them. That's what the utility intervener would do.
Last time you were here, you mentioned pizza parties to kind of get some information out there. Right? How are those going? And are you noticing, are any of the candidates wanting to meet with AARP to discuss with the members?
Oh, absolutely. We had, I think it was over 10 Congress members across the whole state, Republicans and Democrats, who showed up for these pizza parties because they were in their neighborhoods and their constituents were in there. And again, the 50 plus vote, and they know it, and they know how important Social Security is for folks. It is the third rail for everyone. You know, in New York State, 20% of people who get Social Security, that is their only income. So that politicians better not mess around with Social Security.
Yeah, and that's a big issue. That's a big issue for many. Something that it's really, some people are single voting voters and single issue voters, and that it might be the top single issue. Beth, great to have you. Come back when you talk about that poll, the next poll, okay?
Will do.
Good to see you.
Thanks,
all right,
Dan.
everybody, with that, we'll be right back. Miss a minute, you miss a lot, so the PIX 11 political team is with you every step of the way for so many of these important races in the home stretch of the election season. That'll do it for another episode of PIX 11 Politics. I'm Dan Mannarino. I'll see you next time.